they're put in all of the ills in Wales.
It is. It's this character assassination you talked about.
They're heaping it on the women.
Well, the stuff on this page is appalling.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just really appalling, isn't it?
Yeah.
As wives, they are mostly slovenly and improvident, and as mothers, ignorant and injudicious.
Yeah.
They do not appear wanting in that sort of care for the offspring which the lower animals have. I mean, it's appalling, isn't it?
They liken them to, animals, So you care for much of your children as a cow would for its calf. And then the next thing then is the immorality. Now, the problem with this is if they went out and did the same survey in England at the time, in rural areas, they would have got the same result. The Welsh were no more immoral than the English. The fact is that these guys were going out there and they were recording this. The big question is, you've got to ask is, why were they recording this? They were out there to look at the schools. What's the morality of that got to do with education or schools? It's got nothing to do with it. And we'll come to the reason for that in a little while. The big problem was the system of bundling. I don't know if you know what bundling is. Now, it's where there was a shortage of accommodation and things like that, so females and males were sharing bedrooms and all this kind of things. And if a couple went up to a bedroom or went to a bedroom on the same level, and they laid on the bed, as long as they were talking, it was presumed that nothing was going on. As soon as they stopped talking, someone would poke their head around there to see what was happening. And that this system of bundling it's happened everywhere. It happened in America, it happened in England, it happened everywhere at this point in time. But it come in all the way through the report. It comes into as one of the big causes for the immorality.
It's all looking at it. It's all tittle tattle, isn't it?
Yeah. Now, if you look at all these,
there's nothing they've observed as such.
No. If you look exactly, if you look at all these comments, it's coming from mainly the Welsh Anglican ministers, who don't have a vested interest in saying these things, do they? And then, I love the one at the bottom, the Reverend Davis from Troyderoo, where so prevalent is the want of chastity among the females, although I promise to return the marriage fee to all couples whose first child should be born 9 months from the marriage. Only 1 in 6 years entitle themselves to claim it back. And chastity is the giant sin of Wales. I bet it still is today. You start then seeing some of the reasons, what was going on here. I cannot regard the condition of the people as one pregnant with great peril to the interests of society. The Welsh are not prone to sedition. On the contrary, they are very loyal and peacefully disposed, but their passions can be excited, and their ignorance renders that excitability peculiarly hazardous. I.e., we need to educate you to walk the right path. Another one here: the Welsh people are much quicker than the English. Yeah, I love this one. On the copy that I was reading, teach English and bigotry will all be banished. There was a whole series of exclamation marks next to that. But they'll come up with the answer that we want them to come up with. And the bottom one, it's basically pointing out there that Wales is not a civilized community. Basically, subtly, it's a backhanded. If we know you're bright, and we know if we educate you, you could be up there with us. But
some of them are almost human.
Yeah, but we are obviously a much more civilized community than you are. Anyway, you can see what's happened here is you've got 3 barristers going out there, okay, and they thought when they went out there they were going to come back with all this information which would prove what they wanted to prove. we're going to sell you, we're going to subjugate you by education, but we're
Reform,
going to do
yeah.
it in such a way, and everything we say is going to be, we're doing this for you, the great good, your benefit, etc., etc.
Call it reform and improvement. Yeah.
And when the commissioners went out, they didn't have a legal backing. They didn't have like a warrant which says we can come into the school. They had to rely on being let in. And the thing was, all the schools they went to, everyone welcomed in, arms in. Typical Welsh people. Come on in, have a look. See it. It's all fine here, mate. You can have a look anywhere, poke into there, have a look at the books, ask the children anything. And why? Considering what the English were plotting and trying to do, and perversely, it's Welsh mothers. Welsh mothers were having a big push at the time with all the industrialisation that was going on. Welsh mothers were pushing for their offspring to be taught English because it was the way out of poverty. And what these people haven't, what is quite clear in the reports, what the real issue here is it's not education, it's not lack of education, it's poverty. It's just sheer poverty, lots of it.
Exploitation,
poverty, but no one wanted to look at that. No one wanted to say that it was.
They just wanted a more passive workforce, didn't they? They just wanted some people who were suffer in silence and accept it, rather than get on their hind legs and say something in Welsh.
But when they came back with all the information, it didn't actually show really what they wanted to show. So at that point in time, they do what all lawyers do when you can't win on the facts. You attack the integrity and the character of the other side. Every lawyer does it throughout history. It always happens. If you can't win on the facts, concentrate on the personality and character of the people. Find some kind of weakness there. Show the judge and show the jury that they deserved. Yeah, they might not have done it, but they still deserve to hang Dick Penn.
Yeah. This is what Welsh lacking about their whole careers, isn't it?
No, exactly.
Like diverting from this, but it's a personal attack that's always made, rather than an attack on the research.
Rather than attack on, and it's the traditional lawyers attack, and it didn't show what they wanted to show. So you come back then to the Welsh women. This is where they attack the Welsh women in particular. And again, what was it? Their brief was to go out. If you look at the instructions, their brief was to go out and look at the schools, the condition of the schools, the facilities, all of that kind of the caliber of the teacher, all of this kind of stuff, which can all be objectively measured. It was all objective. And then all of a sudden they come back with a report, which when you read the 1,300 pages, you take out all of the reams of stats and figures and things like that, you're actually left with about 60 pages of attack. And most of that attack is focused on Welsh women.
Well, the stuff on this page is appalling.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just really appalling, isn't it?
Yeah.
As wives are mostly slovenly and improvident, and as mothers, ignorant and injudicious.
Yeah.
They do not appear wanting that sort of care for the offspring which the lower animals have. I mean, it's appalling, isn't it?
They liken them to, animals, So you care for much of your children as a cow would for its calf,
Yeah. That's basically how they're putting it. Yeah, it's appalling. God, I didn't know it is that bad. I mean, that's just horrendous.
Yeah, well, there are pages and pages of this. You can just pull it, any page you pull out. There's about, in particular, there's probably about 10, 15 pages of attack on Welsh women. And you can just pull it out. And what happened at the time was, of course, like today, the tabloid newspapers, or their equivalent at the time.
Oh yeah, I love all this. Yeah,
leapt on all this, and they put them out there, and it was already blazing fire, and they poured petrol on it big time and turned it into an inferno.
I can imagine it's all very salacious. Yeah.
So it was. It's just. But the bottom one is the real kicker, I think. I refer to the alleged lack of chastity in the women. If this be so, it's sufficient to account for all other immoralities. When these influences are corrupted at their very source, it is vain to expect virtues in the offspring. So just in that one bit there, if they didn't have anything else, they're put in all of the ills in Wales
It is. It's this character
And they're
assassination
heaping
he
it,
talks about. Yeah.
yeah, they're heaping it on the women.
No knowledge of housewifery or economy.
No,
They're
exactly.
stupids. They're, well, it's terrible, isn't it?
It's anyway.
And
We come
again,
back
all those hundreds of pages of statistics. I doubt there's any statistics to actually back up any of this.
Oh no! All of this is opinion, and a large part of it is coming from the
dressing it up. Yeah. Do you remember that
and
series, Brass? I think it was called years ago.
Yes.
With Ardcrite and all that, and they had his factory up in the north of England, and it's like that. It's like a joke. Only this actually happened.
No, it really did happen, and the thing was, it was this way they exploited them with the truck system, where they used to pay them in tokens and they could only redeem them at their, and
the company store, as they called it in America.
The smart iron masters gave them in tokens, and they paid like 2/3 of them could only be redeemed in the beer shop, and the other third could be returned in our grocery shop. So you could see what they were doing. They knew, the iron masters knew what they were doing.
We'll force him to drink it. Yeah.
And the next one down on page 290, volume 2, is basically they're defending the truck system, saying if you didn't have that control over these men, because they're so lawless and insubordinate, the capital embarked in the works would be at their mercy. Hang on a minute. We're just talking about money here again, We don't care about the welfare. We don't care about the education. We're just talking about my money that's behind all of this.
Well, yeah, I'm sure that he wouldn't expect any restraints on his great wealth, would he?
And then the final bit of the triad is restoring the reputation of the courts, because perjury was so common and nobody could understand what was going on. And they say is that the witnesses didn't understand. If they understood English, they feigned not to.
It must have been a farce. The only person in the room really speaking English is the judge. Everyone else is speaking Welsh.
Yeah,
or maybe a couple of barristers or something. If
it was the counsels would be speaking in English, the judge would be saying, but the jury and in some of the things I record, there's only so much you can pull out, but they keep on recording cases where they've gone into court and then they had the trial, and then the jurors are asking what was all that about. And why is he guilty?
I can just imagine these wonderfully erudite and verbose lawyers building their case and creating this whole story and narrative, and the whole jury is blankly looking at him, like Beth, buddy, what what was that about? Yeah. I can imagine. I don't know if this would have happened because of the sort of the pretty hard punishments in those days, but when they talk about contempt of court, I just imagine the whole courtroom laughing, because the guy's giving some answer, and anyone watching can understand the answer, the jury can understand the answer, but the judge and the briefs, they can't understand the answer, and it must have been, what Welsh humour's like for this kind of thing. I reckon there must have been some hilarious answers, and everyone trying to keep a straight face. It must have been a complete farce.
Well, the big beef that they all had was, but because the jurors were Welsh,
they back them up anyway.
They were never going to get a prosecution anyway, no matter what. It was quite simply because the Welsh saw it quite rightly as the Welsh against the English. It was just like, and you English have got a stacked deck here, so we're just fighting back.
The one thing saving us is the jury system, yeah.
So the interesting thing is, right, so you've got all of this, and it's coming back down to these three key things, which is the whole cause of why they went out to do the surveys in the first place. So at the end of the day...
Sorry, can I just add? So I'm going to plot spoil and assume that with all this information, the way the courts are running, the obvious conclusion was that more judges and lawyers should learn Welsh. Is that what they came to conclusion?
No. Okay.
No, I've got it wrong. No.
Now, and the reason for that is you've got to go back to 1536. The statute says
you're not allowed to speak Welsh.
You're not allowed to speak Welsh in courts, and
so that doesn't work.
And if you were a lawyer representing, they didn't have paid lawyers at the time. You had to pay your own lawyers, but everyone had to speak in court by statute. and you couldn't be paid for public duty. You couldn't get someone in who could speak Welsh.
So even the recorder or something,
they couldn't go into court and speak on your behalf because they spoke Welsh. Yeah, as I said, the deck was loaded, the dice was loaded. However you want to put it, you roll your dice and it always come up for them 666, and it always come up 111 for you.